Let's talk about this Assassin's Creed Infinity news, because as somebody who is a longtime fan of the franchise, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't a bit concerned. Now, before we dive into that, if I sound a bit different than normal, that's because I have mono. Woo. Feels great. Love having mono in my mid-20s whenever I've got actual responsibilities instead of getting it in like 10th grade whenever I can be out of school for a month and it doesn't really matter. All of that beside the point, I still wanted to make this video today because I am on the mend and Assassin's Creed Infinity has been on my mind a good bit. So for those that don't know what happened, earlier this week Jason Schreier broke the story of Bloomberg with the fact that Assassin's Creed was not going to be an independent game-by-game entry kind of setup anymore. You would no longer be getting your Assassin's Creed Odysseys and your Assassin's Creed Valhallas, but instead, all of the studios would be working on this one big collaborative Warzone style experience, and the more you read into this update from Ubisoft, the more it seems that Call of Duty was probably the likely inspiration for this shift. Now, if you want to check out the entire update, it's out now at news.ubisoft.com, and it's titled An Update on Assassin's Creed Infinity and the Future of the Assassin's Creed Franchise. It starts off, quote, "From its action-adventure origins to its RPG evolution, Assassin's Creed has shown how the decisions we make now, no matter how big or small, can influence the events of the future. After both Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Valhalla shattered records, we find ourselves in that very moment where we know the decisions we are making for the franchise now will impact its future for years to come. Along with our announcement of new content coming for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we wanted to share some key updates on the talented and creative minds that will now be working in a collaborative cross-studio structure between Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Quebec that will guide, grow, evolve, and define the overall future of Assassin's Creed that includes an important upcoming early-in-development project codenamed Assassin's Creed Infinity." They go on about how this is truly a cross-collaborative kind of experience, but towards the end of the article is where you really find some more news. Quote, "Rather than continuing to pass the baton from game to game, we profoundly believe this is an opportunity for one of Ubisoft's most beloved franchises to evolve in a more integrated and collaborative manner that's less centered on studios and more focused on talent and leadership no matter where they are within Ubisoft. Most importantly, Assassin's Creed has always been developed by multicultural teams with various backgrounds and perspectives that have influenced the depiction of its characters, locations, and cultures. While we know there is always room for improvement, we believe this new structure allows us to ensure that diversity and representation within our teams continues to grow and match that of our players." It's worth noting that we have not seen any definitive gameplay. We know nothing outside of this specific article. But let's go ahead and assume this is that evolutionary Assassin's Creed game that we've seen so many gaming outlets talking about. Let's assume this is the Warzone of the Assassin's Creed universe. Could it potentially work? Yes. Is it going to be the Assassin's Creed game that I would want or that traditional fans would probably want? I doubt it. The reason that I love the Assassin's Creed games is that each one has its own definitive story featuring its own unique assassin. Now there is the overall plot, there's the overarching storyline that connects all of these games together, but when it comes to the basic experience that the entry-level player, I guess is what you could call it, would see, you have individual stories of Altair, you have individual stories of Ezio and Connor from Assassin's Creed 3, you have the twins from Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and so many more just keep on going. You have all of these individual tales that can be told. With an overarching Assassin's Creed Infinity kind of experience, I don't know that it lends itself to that ever-evolving infinity kind of experience. I like my Assassin's Creed games to kind of have an end. I don't really want them to be infinite. Now obviously we have to talk about the elephant in the room. You do have Halo Infinite, which is kind of similar in name, and then you have Warzone, which is this ever-evolving game. These two games can do it, so why can't Assassin's Creed? While Halo has depth, and while Call of Duty has depth in terms of story, at their core, Halo is a first-person shooter. Call of Duty is a first-person shooter. You need no context, you really don't even need to know what the guns themselves actually are, you just need to pick up the controller and play. So it doesn't really matter when you dive in. In terms of Warzone, you could pick up the game when it first launched last year, you could pick it up during the Cold War patch, you can pick it up in the future for whatever the next Call of Duty game is, and whenever the new map drops, there you have it, you'll be ready to go because It's just a first-person shooter, and the controls will feel very similar for this Assassin's Creed Infinity experience. I'm sure it's going to be very similar to what we see with Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but at the same time, there has to be a deeper story. Assassin's Creed thrives because of its story. Its gameplay is fine, and it certainly has improved over the years, depending on who you talk to. I prefer the RPG experience. Some people prefer the stealth action game kind of experience, but all of that to the side, the gameplay isn't why anyone directly comes to Assassin's Creed, it's the story, and so that's what really has to be nailed here. If I had to guess, Assassin's Creed Infinity probably won't be out for another 3 or 4 years. That seems to add up in my mind. That's the timeline that makes sense. But ultimately, fans are still angry, at least longtime fans are. The big question is, how will this impact the overall franchise, and how will it be received? Only time will really tell. But you let me know what you think so far in the comment section down below. Do you like the idea of an infinite Assassin's Creed game? Do you like the idea of this ever-evolving world? And do you think that it could work? Or do you think that you would rather just have these individual experiences like we've seen with the past Assassin's Creed games? Would love to hear your thoughts. But until next time, thank you guys for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, drop me a like down below, and I'll catch you on the next one.